Hey everyone, on this edition of Libris, we're going to be talking about pamphlets. Specifically, pamphlets written by and about magicians. Not these, because the ones in this drawer deal exclusively with escape artists. And we're going to be looking at pamphlets going back to, I think, about the 1860s. So stay tuned, because you're not going to want to miss this one. Okay, so the pamphlets we'll be talking about today are ones like this from 1895. Ones that used magicians of the day, the famous magicians of the day that used their names to sell them, whether or not the magician had anything to do with the writing of it or not. Like this one, Herman's Tricks with Cards. Now, I'm not going to open these up because they're rare, old, and fragile. Okay, I think you can understand that. But what I'd like to do someday is maybe scan these things and write a book about them. But the technology is very expensive to do something like that, and so I just absolutely don't have the resources right now. So right now we're just going to have to be satisfied with taking a look at the covers. Okay, now these things were available in all kinds of bookstores and general stores and places like that throughout the late 1800s, and a lot of magicians got their start by reading books like these. There's several wizard's manuals. I always thought this was interesting. Heller's Magic, and he'd been dead for like 40 years by the time this one came out. And there's some stuff that like Blackstone would sell in the lobby. But I don't think Keller got a nickel from this. I was lucky buying these things because I found them all at like flea markets and book sales and antique shops and stuff like that. I never had to buy any of them online or at auctions or anything like that. And it's just an example of how all of a sudden you turn around one day and realize that you have, a pretty big collection of stuff. I hope you enjoyed this video. It has a little bit of everything in it and at several speeds. I have hundreds and hundreds of these little booklets that I've collected over the years. Sometimes they'll be in the box of stuff that I buy at an auction. Sometimes they'll be at a yard sale. I get them from all different sources. Now you'll notice sometimes I have more than one copy because I like to collect different editions. Some of these booklets, they originally were printed in the 1930s and 40s, and they're still being reprinted today. Sometimes they put little changes in them, sometimes they don't. But these little booklets and pamphlets were written on a variety of subjects. Sometimes they would just take one branch of magic, like say coin tricks or card tricks, and you would just get the entire booklet dedicated to that one subject, like Tricks with Cards here, for example. And there was no shortage of publishers. These things were printed and published by the author themselves, by magic companies, by regular publishing houses. Some were used as premiums or giveaways from companies, like an oatmeal company or a breakfast cereal or something like that. There's just hundreds of different publishers of these things, and there's no way you could ever get a complete collection. But I'm trying. The only thing that's frustrating about assembling a collection like this is that sometimes there's no publication date or author, so it's really hard to organize them when you're trying to do it that way. So I've done my best to include little descriptions on the backing boards wherever I can. Okay, here's where we get into the really cool old stuff. These things go back to about 1860, roughly. And some of them were taken word for word out of published magic books. Others were created by the author, like this one. This guy used to sell an entire course on how to become an entertainer in vaudeville. He also did hypnotism and stage magic and things like that. And he sold a mail order course on, how to be an entertainer. But some of these are really special because they will list and reference famous magicians of the era. So, you can find one from the 1890s and it'll say something like, as performed by Keller, or Herman's Book of Magic. But sometimes the magician had nothing to do with the book itself and didn't get any money from it. So, they would just steal his name, print a few thousand copies, make some money, and then, disappear before anyone could sue them. Some of the routines and effects inside, like I said, were lifted directly out of books of the time. And, when you even look at the advertisements on the back, it's really amazing, and it's really a step back in time. And they came in different editions. Sometimes they would slightly change the cover, and I try and pick up the variations wherever possible. Some of these were sold by the magician in the lobby as merchandise, along with, posters or autographed pictures or whatever. They would put together these little booklets and sell them to the audience members on their way out. It's always better, I think, to find names of famous magicians associated with the booklet, whether they were or not. Just having the name on there is really cool. Now, I also have, in addition to these in the collection, other items called wee books. They were really tiny little ones you can get for like a nickel or a dime back then, and most of them were printed by the same company. I also have separated, as you saw in the beginning of the video, all of my escape artist references and booklets. But these are just the ones that cover a wide variety of magic and ventriloquism and things like that. Now, eventually, I will put together and publish a book comprising of all of these, but I won't be able to scan the contents at this point in time because of the technology that exists at the time of this video. But I would like to at least include the covers and make it sort of like a reference guide or a checklist, so that you have an idea of what's out there and what to look for when you're out hunting for your antiques and trying to add to your collection. But like anything else in the collecting world, it seems like the more you get, the more you find exists out there. So I'm going to keep on hunting and keep on organizing and reorganizing and using this stuff as a reference material. And I thank you guys for watching, and please, if you haven't done already, subscribe to the channel. See ya.